the history and general introduction. Firstly, I will introduce to you the history of Thăng Hanoi. The imperial citadel of Thăng is a complex historic buildings associated with the history of Vietnam, located in the center of Hanoi. Its construction began at 1010 and was complete in the early 1011 under the reign of Emperor Lý Thái Tổ of the Lý dynasty. Most existing structure is dated to the extensive reconstruction of the old imperial citadel ordered by Gia Long in 1805, but the citadel, except for the north gate and the flag tower, was largely demolished by the French to allow more land for office and barracks. In 1831, during his administrative reforming map, changed the name of Thăng Long to Hanoi Province, and this name still exists until 1888, when the Nguyễn dynasty officially set Hanoi to the French, after which it would become the administrative capital of French Indochina. And then, when and how was the old quarter first established? The old quarter, in fact, is a reminder of Hanoi's storied past. Its history has long been tied to the ebb and flow of the conquerors and the traders over the past 1,000 years. The residential and commercial area that is now the old quarter came to be during the Lý and Trần dynasty, and was then located east of the imperial citadel of Thăng Long and along the Red River. Then I will tell you the development of the old quarters in different periods. During the Lê dynasty, scholar Nguyễn already mentioned some of the areas each specialized in one particular stretch. It was then surrounded by a defensive wall with several gates. During Nhà Lê dynasty, there include several lakes and wetlands, the largest of which was Tiger Lake. This lake, as well as the Tô Lịch River, were connected with Hoàng Kiếm Lake and the Red River. Near the end of 19th century, these lakes and rivers become isolated from each other. During Nhà Lý and Trần dynasty, many people from the surrounding plains migrate to the city and settle in what is now the old quarters, creating the decent urban area of this city. The Lê dynasty period saw an additional influx of Chinese immigrants who arrived to Jet, creating several Chinese neighborhoods. The official extent of the Hanoi old quarters has been fixed by 1905 decision from the Vietnamese Ministry of Construction in the north. It is limited by Hàng Đậu Street, in the west by Phùng Hưng Street and Hàng Thùng Street, in the east by Trần Quang Khải Street and Trần Nhật Duật Street. Several of the streets that were part of the historic urban area of Hanoi lie outside this region, which was determined for being most dense in historical street, for having maintained its historical character best. How were the ancient streets in the old quarter established? It was during beginning of the Li dynasty when the Emperor Li Taitou moved his capital to Hanoi. A community of craftsmen followed the imperial entourage to the new city. Craftsmen performing similar service were organized into guilds whose members tend to stick together to protect their livelihood. The old quarter began to acquire its reputation as a craft area when the Vietnamese attained independence in the 11th century, and King Li Taitou built his palace there. In the early 13th century, the collection of tiny workshop villages which clustered around the citadel was involved into the craft cooperative began to branch out. Then what is the meaning of the street in Old Quarter? Because beyond the new structure, the addition, activities, and ways of life of people settling in quarter represent a heritage and history that prevailed from over 1,000 years ago. To local and visitor alike, the place is popularly known as 36th Street. That is another of many mysteries that envelop this amazing part of Hanoi. There are actually more than 36 streets. In fact, the area is a labyrinth of over 17 streets packed with family-owned shops selling silk, stuffed toy, artwork, souvenirs, food, coffee, watches, and steel ties. Why are cheese on street painted with lime? In fact, the type of water used to paint on trunk is not only white water but also contains calcium salt, sulfur, paint chalk, so mainly has two purposes. The first is to combat malaria, and second is to prevent insect. Okay, now I will move on to the heritage, to another topic, which is the Heritage House at No 87 Mame Street. I will present the house history and usage in different periods. The surrounding of Hanoi are dotted with craft villages, which on the banks of the river have to come sell their goods on the banks of the river capital. Throughout its existence, the property changed hands several times, hosting various merchants' families engaged in different trades. In the early period, late 19th century, it was originally owned by rice merchants. In the early 20th century, became home to the traditional herbal medicine. During mid-20th century, hosts all the commercial activities typical of the old quarters. From 1954 to 1998, divided and allocated to 5 different families at communal housings. Then the Vietnamese government requisitioned the house to accommodate 5 families until 1999. They practiced his trade: grocer, civil servant, tailor, and even a martial art teacher. Finally, in 2004, it became a Vietnamese heritage property from the last century. You all know the house have a tube shape. Then why does it have that shape? And why are the houses in the old quarters are very narrow? Due to requirements of urban jet, opening a shop to sell goods in-house with wide door facing the street is an important and inevitable issue. Therefore, the house is only 2 to 6 meters wide, which is equal to the wide room of a room in a 3 or 5 room house in the past, but it is strongly developed in the depth while still using the old roof structure of the folk house. So the roof space is large. To take advantage of it, people often add mezzanines by leaving holes in the floor and putting up a staircase with a slope from 17 to 75 degrees make of good. The magazine for storing goods or placing a bed should not be higher than 2.2 meters. If the living space needs to expand, the ancient Hanoians often developed the house vertically into the floor. That is why it's called tube house. Then, what are the traditional Vietnamese architecture details in the ancient house? The house was divided into different spaces along with its typical shape, including a store to sell goods, a warehouse, a kitchen, and a backyard with jars for storing rainwater. Stepping up into the wooden stair, the second floor is where the sleeping and worshipping rooms are. All of them are illuminated with natural light from the window. The house is also mainly built of woods, so that it is cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Now I will present the meaning of door sill in the ancient Vietnamese architecture. Door house cover a gap between the floor and the door frame, helping to prevent any water leaks, insects, or dogs from entering through the opening. It could be explained as a strip of golden that lies under the doorway. It won't take you much time to catch the sight of this structure in various architectural works, for instance, houses, temples, and pagodas. With door sills, the entire house will be able to stand still and stable. It was used as a limit to demarcate the boundary between the indoor and outdoor and between the outdoor and indoor areas. Moreover, a house that includes the door sill would also carry a simple but elegant beauty. When you step inside the house, you have to get rid of all anger and exhausted that you have when being far away from your house to spend time with and take care of your family. When you step out of your house, you have to understand that no one will love you unconditionally except for your family members. So be independent, strong, and always give out your best shot. Finally, people believe door sill bring luck to the owner. A beautiful meaning always hides itself behind an extremely simple form of existence. Now I will tell you about the ancestor worships and related information. Um, uh, Now I will present the history, tradition, and the significance of ancestor worship in the Vietnamese culture. Why do Vietnamese people worship ancestor? Ancestor worship was introduced into Vietnam by the Chinese during their long occupation of the country that began 200 years before the birth of Christ. Since then, it has been fully absorbed into Vietnamese consciousness, and with Confucianism underpins the country's religion and social fabric. For the Vietnamese, ancestor worship is not related to gods, spiritualism, or even supernatural in Western sense. It's not even a belief in the sense that it is open to question by the believers. The Vietnamese accept as a fact that the ancestors continue to live in another realm, and that it is the duty of the living to meet their needs. In turn, the ancestor will give advice and bring good fortune. Now let's discuss about the theory of 5 elements and how the Vietnamese have incorporated the philosophy in the family at large. In folk culture, the concept of 5 elements that make up universe is mental, good, water, fire, earth are 5 great gods with different powers for occupation related to land, fire good, mental, water, and good. People call her 5 mothers. And she has her own temple to worship, not worship with other gods, with other god in the village temple or the religious establishment, because the 5 elements can give birth to everything. They also have their own world and must be worshipped separately. Now I will present the meaning of the following offerings on altar: burning incense, candle or oil lamp, flower, fruit, water. A child of 5 fruits, symbolizing the 5 elements with many colors and flavors: green of bananas, good, yellow of grapefruit or butter hens, earth, red of chili or red mixed with orange of the tangerines. Is 5 are the harmonious elements, such as in the salt, with custard apple, coconut, papaya, mango, symbolizing praying for long to live on. On the altar, there are always clean set of 3 of 5 candles. Family with ancestral lights open the red silk or curtain to cover ancestral tablets. The incense bowls can be used scent water